no, it's been this amount of days since I last watched pornography, and there's probably new videos out that I haven't seen that I'm holding myself back from, and there's new stuff out, and I feel like I'm missing out. Now, I want to respond, like, this video is basically a concentrated response to that kind of thinking. And the way I want to simplify this is distinguish between two types of fear of missing out. There's two options when it comes to fear of missing out. It's either coherent or it's incoherent. There's not a third option. And philosophically, this is called the law of excluded middle, which is basically like things that can where you can say this is either A or non-A. So like for example, with shapes, every shape either has three sides or it does not have three sides. There's no like option C where somehow it's neither A nor B. So when it comes to things that people fear missing out on, either that fear is coherent or it's incoherent. And the question ends up being, okay, how do we distinguish between the things that are coherent to fear missing out on and the things that are incoherent to fear missing out on? And a big way I think that question could be clarified is the question of value. What is valuable? Imagine a dad was like, man, I'm struggling with fear of missing out so much. I mean, my children, I want to invest more in my relationship with them because I fear not getting that good, stable relationship with them. I want them to grow up and have a close relationship with me. Which side does that go on? It's a coherent fear of missing out, but I would ask why. And a clear way of answering that question is because he's seeking a real good. That's a real value that actually makes sense to fear missing out on. But now suppose there's somebody that for some reason is going around to all the local parks in his towns and is like going through every square inch of these parks because he's afraid that he's going to miss the best tasting dirt in the town. So he goes around with a spoon and eats the various dirt and he's like, man, I haven't tried the dirt over there. What about that park? Oh man, a new park's opening up. I'm gonna have to like that kind of. Which does that belong in? And obviously, it belongs in incoherent. And then I would ask you the same question. Okay, what is a helpful way that you can point that out, even though it's obvious? It's because eating dirt has no value. Eating dirt is not a valuable thing to strive for. That's disgusting. That's not desirable. And so I'm bringing this up. Hopefully you see the point that I'm trying to get at, but I want to go even deeper. And so when it comes to pornography, a question to ask is that thing valuable? Is that desirable? Is that something that I actually should be wanting? And a problem with this fear of missing out, it's basically grounded largely in like a type of novelty where you assume that there's some epic video that you haven't seen that would be like amazing to see. And then there's like this trick going on where every time you've gone back in the past, you realize that principle is still there. I mean, the exact same thing you were worrying about is still there whether you go back or not because there's like an infinite number of videos. So like again, put this in perspective. If the fear, basically what I'm trying to, hopefully you see where I'm going with this. If the fear is fear of missing out, notice like with coherent fears, like this is another way to distinguish these things. So with coherent fears, the dad fears missing out on a good relationship with his children. So he invests more time, he invests more efforts, and he can actually, there can be good things that come out of that. But like with pornography, no matter whether you go back or not, it remains the same. The reality is the same that there's like an infinite amount of videos out there, and so the fear of missing out will not, don't allow the deception of assuming that emotion is going to be satisfied by going back. Don't fall for this novelty deception that there's some kind of video out there that would finally satisfy you. You know that's not going to happen. And so what I want to, just one thing, and it's kind of an interesting point just in of itself, even if this is affirmed as a correct fear, it has literally technically nothing to do with going back to pornography when you actually think about it, because that fear would exist whether you go back or not. And you shouldn't go back 100%. But do you see what I mean? That for fear of missing out won't be addressed, and that's a huge reason why it is incoherent by going back to pornography, just because the reason there's fear of missing out, oh, there may be a new video, there might be videos that I haven't seen, would be the case either way. So step back and realize there's some kind of logical error going on here if this is being used as an argument to go back to pornography when going back to pornography is completely logically independent from the thing being considered. So that's one point. But again, you need to consider the question of what is actually valuable. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing that you're not going back to that? And clearly it's a good thing, and you can call this ROMO, rejoice over missing out, basically highlighting the principle that like you're not going to get value in that, you're not going to get happiness in that, you're not going to get any of the more valuable things that God has for you, and most importantly honoring him from that. So there's not going to be, it belongs in the incoherent side. I want to connect the question of value to the question of purpose. And they're so connected, obviously, because something that is purposeful is also valuable by virtue of being purposeful. But a helpful analogy, and I have this picture here, a helpful analogy to make, especially if one is like struggling with the thought process that there's people out there who are just relishing in all this stuff and are experiencing allegedly the great delight of humiliating themselves with another new video. And you just compare it to soda. Like, there's a lot of flavors of high sugar sodas out there. Theoretically, if one only cared about sensation, if one just wanted that sensation on their taste buds, they could go do what this guy's doing in this photo: buy 100 sodas and sit around all day drinking the soda. And what that man will realize very quickly is this is absolutely miserable. This is making me completely depressed. My life is falling apart. It's not only has it made me literally physically unhealthy, I'm drinking so much soda, my mind is like worse off. I'm just worse off as a whole. It's hurting my relationships. It's hurting me across my life. Not only is that true, but my pursuit of this sensation has made the life outside of this also undesirable. And so look at this incoherent situation that ends up happening. The very consumption of the sensation is harmful in of itself. But then it's also making the rest of life undesirable. And so like, this is not a situation to desire being in. This is not a situation like, do you fear missing out on the situation that is in this picture right now? Are you afraid of not having this? Like, are you afraid of not being like, man, I'm just, what did I do for the past week? Yeah, I just want to sit around all day on my couch, drinking nonstop soda, doing absolutely nothing with my life, experiencing the sensation on my taste buds, and pursuing that above all else, contra all of the more valuable things that I could be doing, like going to get a job, going to the gym, pursuing a career in which I can help other people, seeking to build relationships, seeking to grow most fundamentally in my walk with God. I could be doing all these things, but why do that when I can sit on the couch drinking nonstop soda? Because there's a lot of flavors out there. I mean, there's a lot of various ways I can get to the same net result of being physically sick and miserable. There's a lot of different types of sodas I can use to. And so hopefully you see the multifaceted point I'm trying to make here. And I just want to say, like, if you're struggling with any of the things that I mentioned with that analogy, like in terms of like physical fitness, there's very simple things that you can get started off with to make a huge difference. Like I saw recently, this is something that, by the way, that's very cool, completely unrelated to this video, by the way, but considered a bonus point, where like, for example, a lot of people will assume in order to start working out, they need like a perfect routine and they need to be in the gym an hour a day, 5 days a week. And something that I saw that was actually very interesting, and there's this concept of like doing one set to failure and that's all you do. And yeah, if you do more, you could probably get more muscle gains. But an interesting point is that I think you can look this up. Like something like, if you do one hard set to failure, like good form, good technique, just one set, you can do it in like literally a couple less than 2 minutes, if even. If you're going to failure, depending on how many reps, but like one set to failure can get you like a very solid chunk. I'm not gonna say the exact percentage, but I saw it was like shockingly high of your weekly gains, and it's like people assume that if they're not gonna get the maximal thing, they should. Why make any effort at all? And the question is like, no, you can actually start building a very helpful, consistent habit to start improving your life by starting with, like, you could get one really good set of push-ups in right now, and you'd get a solid percentage of your gains for the week if you were doing multiple sets throughout the week. That one set can make such a difference. And so I know this is a side point, but I just want to encourage, this is just another way of encouraging people. It does not take much to do something big to improve your life. And so correlating that with like, do you fear missing out on the purposeful things that you can invest in by taking reasonable steps to grow as a man and to grow in discipline? Do those things that are actually valuable and actually purposeful, when you should fear missing out on, in a sense, the investment of taking steps to actually grow in your walk with God and grow as a man and grow in discipline. For God's glory, and not even you, but also for those around you. And just how much more of a blessing can you be to those around you by seeking to improve your life and seeking to take those steps? Like I'm saying, similarly, this one set principle, start reading a chapter of Proverbs a day and build that habit over time. I'm going to start reading 2 chapters now. And it does not take much to start investing in the things that are coherent. But the stuff that's incoherent, leave it on the incoherent side and don't go back to it. Distinguishing what is valuable versus what is not valuable, and investing in those things that actually make sense to fear missing out on. So I hope that made sense, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and a comment. I would appreciate it, and thanks for watching.